Hello everyone, welcome back to For Love of Cinema. My name is George Ray, and in this video we'll be discussing the semi-new film, The Drama, written and directed by Kristoffer Borgli, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson.
So, before we got married, we did this thing where we said the worst thing we've ever done.
Okay.
Are you serious?
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna order an Uber.
Emma, what the fuck?
That's some drama.
So The Drama has had some interesting marketing around it, kind of wrapped in secrecy to an extent. Of course, if you look for it, you can get spoiled for this film. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I will have to talk spoilers in this video, which is something I usually don't like to do, or something I like to recommend. I just feel like I can't really discuss this film without getting into the nitty-gritty details. So forewarning, this video will be filled with spoilers, and I will give a spoiler warning. So The Drama follows a married couple on the verge of their wedding, and basically the concept is, what would you do if you found out your significant other's darkest secrets, the worst thing that they did or almost did, to a point where would it change how you feel about them? Would you back out of marrying them? And things like that. It's a very interesting, intriguing concept, one that I was very curious about. FYI, the writer-director of this has had some controversy surrounding him due to an underage relationship that he has admitted to in an essay a few years back. It's totally disgusting behavior, and I definitely am one to separate the art from the artist. I'm not really seeing anything else this director has done. I was just going in to this knowing who is attached in the cast and what the concept was about, but I just want to mention that I do find that very abhorrent and disgusting, and that seems to be a real problem in Hollywood with underage relationships. I think that's a prerequisite to become a famous or a working filmmaker in the industry. But I digress. I really had an interesting time with The Drama. It really fucked me up in the best ways possible of what I like a film to, challenge me, challenge my own belief systems, challenge my morals and things like that, and come out on the other side something of a new perception on things. And that's what I love about what cinema can do, and The Drama definitely did that for me personally. I know it's very divided. I know there are some people who praise its audacity and boldness, but didn't come away with anything really vital, and that's totally fine. But for me, I came out with a lot with The Drama. It completely floored me. As I said, it fucked me up. It goes really far in its focus and intent, and sometimes doesn't go far enough for my liking in some area. There are a few stones unturned with The Drama, which I will get into. But my initial knee-jerk reaction is I really love this film. I think this film is very powerful. I like that it challenges you, that it challenges your own morals and belief systems, and really kind of goes for the jugular in terms of what it is presenting in this scenario of what is the worst thing your significant other has done, and can you really forgive that or move past that, even if they didn't go all the way with it, or it was just a thought, or it was just a plan of something very devastating, and can you come back to the other side with a stronger bond with your significant other? I really just feel like all those things really worked well with The Drama. It maintains its focus without trailing off too much, though I would have liked to see some of those stones turned that were kind of glossed over a little bit, kind of compared to the rest of the film, but we'll get into that and when we get into spoilers. But there isn't a thing about this film that I really didn't like. I love the sporadic editing. I love the experimentation it was going for. I love the performances from Robert Pattinson and Zendaya, as well as Alana, Haim, and an actor whose name I cannot pronounce, but he was in Kinds of Kindness. He's really great, and I really hope to see more of his work because I think he's a really great, especially in a supporting role aspect, he is really great in his role. And everything, the claustrophobic kind of settings it kind of goes into, you're kind of stuck in these uncomfortable situations, and the self-righteous overreacting to some of the characters was very interesting. Definitely toys with you. It chews you up and spits you out in the best way possible. Going into any film, I hope to get something out of it, to get some kind of emotional response. Though I didn't know it would go this far in this direction. I thought it would go in maybe a different direction, or maybe like the shroud of secrecy in the marketing of this film, of what this one character did or almost did, would be very edgy, or wouldn't be very, hard to take in, so to speak. And yeah, I was really surprised. I threw all my expectations out the window when I went into this. Wanted to just get a, really honest reaction to it. No one goes, some people do, but I don't go into films wanting to hate it. I want to go in and get something out of it, in terms of a real life-changing experience. And like I said, drama did that to me 100%. But I love the sporadic editing. I love the experimentation here. We have things where people are telling stories or having thoughts, and it just kind of jump cuts and rushes in really fast with these different visuals. Some are fantasy, some are things that have yet to happen. And I think that's the drama's greatest strength in terms of what's presenting, the fear, the anxiety, really just had me on the edge of my seat, for lack of a better analogy. It's just very well paced, is very well perceived and executed in terms of what it's going for. And that's really all I can say without getting into heavy spoilers. It's not something I usually like to do on this channel, but I will, because I probably wouldn't say anything beyond surface level in terms of what this film did to me. So spoiler warning, you've been warned. Turn away if you haven't seen the drama. I know it's been in theaters for a while, and I'm sure it'll be on digital and physical media very soon. We're kind of at the period where it's phasing out in theaters, and now, you've either seen it if it interests you, or you have no interest whatsoever. But I would really highly recommend the drama. I would give it 4.5 stars. I'll get into why. But yes, spoiler warning for the ages. So the secret kept in the film, is shrouded in secrecy in the film, is very, very interesting. We have a series of events where they are preparing for their wedding. They are practicing their dance routine. They are tasting wines and tasting foods and writing their speeches and vows they want to give to each other. And it's very, very awkward and hilarious in some instances. And, this film is very darkly funny, and I love a good dark comedy, let me tell you. It definitely succeeded in those aspects. But we get to the scene where they're at a dinner tasting. They're tasting food, they're sampling wines and things like that. And they're having the dinner with their best friends, played by Alana, Haim, and the actor's whose name I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to butcher it here. The conversation turns into, what is the worst thing you have ever done? And would you keep that from your partner? And basically we have different scenarios, and I think we have kind of an unreliable perspective when it comes to Robert Pattinson character, because worst thing that he's ever done is kind of glossed over, and part of me really wishes we got more into that. Was he just placating it? Was he playing it kind of simple, not really divulging any severe information? But basically we have Robert Pattinson. He said he cyberbullied someone to the point where they had to move, and I really want more. As I said, I wanted more information on that one. The film, unfortunately, does not go too in depth with that. We have the Alana Haim's partner, husband. He used one of his ex-girlfriends as a shield for a vicious dog. They were walking in an alleyway to get home, and a vicious dog attacks them, and he uses her as a human shield. And Alana Haim's, you could argue that hers is probably maybe not the most fucked up, but definitely that she went through with the fucked up thing that she did. Basically, she has a neighbor who she refers to as a little slow, and he wanted to show her an RV in the woods, and they went very far into the woods. And basically, she locked him in a closet and didn't tell anyone. And at least from her side of things, they eventually did find the boy, the slow boy that she refers to.
Incredibly hypocritical.
I never said he was mentally disabled.
Yes, you did. You said he was slow. You said he was slow.
She said she acted on impulse, but I mean, to me, that's really fucked up, you know? And she seems to get away with it scot-free in terms of not, you know, having it under a magnifying glass, you know, under a tooth, nail, and comb to really, you know, explore the flawed impulse that she, you know, had. The film doesn't really seem to want to get that deep into it, unfortunately, but, you know, all in all, it's a very fucked up situation. But let's get to Zendaya's character of Emma, I believe. She, you know, divulges information that she, when she was, say, 14 or something, that she was planning a school shooting. And first they kind of play it off like, oh, you're just being, you know, ridiculous, outrageous. But she is very serious. And then we learn through that the Alana Haim character's cousin or sister was paralyzed by a bullet of someone who brought a gun to school and fired it off, and it ricocheted into her spine. And so she's very self-righteous. She is very adamantly upset, as one would be, about this. And it kind of turns into chaos. It turns into complete cringe in the best way. It goes off the rails in the best way. I just want to say that, you know, I when I say cringe, I mean that in the most flattering way possible, you know, not on the negative sense that a lot of people, you know, associate that word with. It just goes off, and it keeps going off until the very end of the film, which I really appreciate. I appreciate we're stuck in it. Emma, the Zendaya character, throws up in the middle of everything. Robert Pattinson's character, Charlie, and Emma go to separate ways from Alana Haim and her partner. It's just kind of a moment of no return for Alana Haim. And, you know, considering she only planned it, she didn't really go through with it, but Alana Haim went through with it by locking a possibly mentally challenged person in the closet without, you know, letting them out or notifying anyone, is just as fucked up, if not worse. In the context that, yeah, Emma didn't really do it. She didn't, you know, go through with it. But, you know, obviously school shootings, massacres are very bad. Murder is a very bad thing. It's not, you know, good to take out your anger and rage with open firearms and things like that. But she didn't go through with it, which is the, you know, maybe the silver lining in this. It's a very interesting dynamic and conversation this film kind of presents throughout the rest of the film. And we really get mostly from Charlie, the Robert Pattinson's character, point of view. He, you know, imagines her as a child with a gun. We see possible flashbacks of her recording herself saying why she did it. It's also important to mention that Emma is deaf in one ear, and because she's deaf in one ear was because she was practicing firing in the woods, and, you know, it didn't go as well as she hoped. That's not the reason she calls it off. Unfortunately, they get wind of when she's in high school that someone shot up a mall and killed 3 people. So that is why she didn't do it, which is really fucked up and really messed up. But still, what is worse? Actually going through something very deplorable, or almost going through something very deplorable and very, you know, obviously killing people in a school setting is a lot worse than locking someone in a closet who has special needs. I get that. But Alana Haim went through with it, and Zendaya, Emma, did not. So it's a very, very interesting dynamic and, you know, moral question it presents to the audience to have different feelings and emotions about everything. So throughout the rest of the film, we see Charlie just go off the rails. He is very, you know, torn by this. There are moments of fantasy where we get scenes and edits where Emma feels like Charlie has left her the day after, and that he was just going back to England, and they're going to, just call off the wedding and things like that. Obviously, he doesn't. He comes back. He asks questions. He is just very curious about everything, and Emma, of course, says it was a long time ago, and obviously it shouldn't change anything, but it does change everything. And it's really upsetting to him, to the point where he almost has an affair with one of his co-workers that goes awry, and the wedding itself becomes a true shit show. But it's a very interesting dilemma for this film and for its story and for its characters. Alana Haim still decides to be the maid of honor to Zendaya, to Emma. Emma is paranoid that they are spreading rumors, and because she can't hear out of one ear, she feels like she overhears something on the other side of a door. And then that unravels to the point where she finds out that Robert Pattinson almost cheated on her with his coworker, who was also invited to the wedding for some reason. And then it just kind of spirals off from there. During their wedding speech, we get kind of a replay, because in the beginning, we get Robert Pattinson's Charlie and Alana Haim's partner, the friend, going over his wedding speech, what stories he's going to say, and he kind of fumbles. He kind of, drags on his words and kind of goes through different stories that aren't, really going great for him, in a very, hilarious, cringe way, to the point where he just flat out says that he's sorry for, almost cheating, or, he did kind of cheat. I mean, they did kiss and they did make out, so it's a very fine line with that. And it turns into chaos. The boyfriend of the coworker that he kind of cheated and almost cheated with, sees this, and he punches Robert Pattinson out, or he headbutts him. This is really hilarious. Emma just walks out of her wedding. It's a whole disaster. It's a whole mess. It's very, very anxiety-inducing and very, very stressful and very, very intense, especially for the subject matter of it being a dark comedy. And yeah, I just had the most wonderful time being uncomfortable with this film. It was just so struggling to want to get through it, to being aghast throughout most of the film. And even though I wish there were more stones unturned with what Robert Pattinson did with his cyberbullying, with Alana Haim did while locking the special needs kid in a RV in a closet, but I think that would detract focus from what the film is trying to do, trying to portray this. What would you do if you found out the worst thing your partner ever did? Would you back away from them? Would you break up with them? Would you still, be bonded to them? The film really just explores this in very unique ways, in ways that, as I said, challenges you to the brink, that you kind of come out from the other side with a different perspective. It fucked me up, kind of invoked a lot of background trauma for me in terms of these things, of being the weird kid, being the kid who is, constantly, bullied, and, having self-righteous people, really like lash out against you for behaviors that you've done in the past that you've kind of gone through the other side with. And that just, to me, just invokes in a really great box a lot of great ideas, a lot of great scenes, a lot of great sporadic editing, a lot of great experimentation, which is what I love about cinema and what I love about film, is the willingness to experiment, especially in this kind of genre of a dark romantic comedy. I guess is the closest thing I would pinpoint to a genre for this. I had a great time with it. I wish that we got more about Robert Pattinson, what Charlie did to cyberbully someone, and we don't really. It's a stone that's unturned. It would have the possibility of trailing off a bit and going, against the film's focus, which I totally understand. As someone who writes scripts, who has done filmmaking, I understand the urge and the, impulse to want to throw a lot of things into your film, into your story. But I feel like, you know, you have to have some kind of focus at the end of the day, some kind of thematic focus. And I really feel the drama did that perfectly. Is it a film for everyone? No. But it is a film for me, and I really loved it. That's why I rate it 4.5 stars. I think it's worth seeing just once. I definitely want to re-experience it again and again. It's another A24 film, and you know, they have their hits and they have their misses, but this is definitely a hit for them, I think, even though it probably didn't do great at the box office. That's a stupid conversation. You know, that shouldn't even be in the conversation. Kind of conversation should not be had when it comes to a quality of a film. Those are my thoughts on the drama. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. It's probably going to be one of my top films of the year, though. I mean, I know we're nearing the end of April. I know it's a little too soon to be making those kind of conversations, but I feel that it definitely is a contender. I'm definitely going to remember it. I'm going to be thinking about it, and I think you should see it if you haven't already. But those are my thoughts on the drama. Now, if you've seen the drama, what did you think? Let me know down there in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. My name is George Ray for Love of Cinema. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one. Until then, peace out.